President Matsumoto. He was here speaking for the Prime Minister like his main helper. Because he was representing the Prime Minister, anything he said in the meeting was like the Prime Minister saying it himself. What you just suggested, how would you actually do it? The second most important person in the Japanese government asked about President Matsumoto's plan. Would they be willing to listen now? President Matsumoto started to explain seriously. Korea does not have the ability to handle a very dangerous gate. They could not do it 4 years ago when the strange creatures first appeared, and they still cannot do it now. The Deputy Prime Minister agreed with this. Jeju Island is a large island, and covers 2% of all the land in South Korea. It was strange that so many magical creatures were taking over such a large place. What more needed to be said? The Korean government had tried 3 times to stop the creatures on Jeju Island, but failed. That's what everyone thought. What do you think would happen if we asked the top Japanese hunters to fight these creatures? News about some of the creatures being able to fly had also reached Korea. It wasn't long before the ants arrived on the main part of Korea. The leaders of Korea would be foolish to not accept their help. But do you think they would simply give us Jeju Island just because we assisted them? The Vice Prime Minister saw several problems with this plan. Some government officials made dismissive noises, but the Vice Prime Minister wasn't trying to criticize the President. He continued speaking in a calm voice. Let's say we help Korea with the ant problem on Jeju Island. Like you suggested, President Matsumoto believed both the Korean and Japanese hunters were capable of eliminating the ants. No one doubted this. What do we get out of it? Even though the ants had caused damage in Japan, the ants on Jeju Island were still Korea's responsibility alone. Japan could not send hunters to help Korea. That was not possible. The Deputy Prime Minister was skilled at figuring out what was best for his country. A fair trade was the main idea in politics. If Japan sent hunters to Korea, they would need to receive something in return. Even getting Jeju Island would not be enough to cover the cost. The Deputy Prime Minister's ideas matched the association president's, and that's why he was interested in the idea to begin with. President Matsumoto's ideas didn't seem very realistic. The Deputy Prime Minister quickly lost interest. Then, President Matsumoto began to laugh. Did anyone actually think we were going to help Korea? The Deputy Prime Minister looked confused. Was President Matsumoto joking with him? He was about to ask him to stop talking when wait a minute. The Deputy Prime Minister's eyes grew wide with surprise. President Matsumoto had said they would offer help. He hadn't said they actually would. Are you exactly? President Matsumoto confirmed easily. He could tell by the Deputy Prime Minister's surprised look that he understood the real plan. You're going to let the Korean hunters face danger. President Matsumoto thought this was likely. People thought he was smart for a reason. He looked at the Deputy Prime Minister and smiled happily. Korea's best hunters asked for our assistance, and we agreed to let them try to find the queen ant, while our own hunters stepped back. Korea had already tried 3 times without success. No one imagined that a 4th attempt would fail because of actions taken by Japan. The Deputy Prime Minister's voice trembled. Are you going to eliminate all of Korea's most powerful hunters? Their destiny was decided when the special entrance opened on Jeju Island, and they were unable to close it. President Matsumoto explained that this situation could not be avoided. They haven't been safe for a long time. What that means is South Korea will be in a lot of danger with all their best hunters gone. What if the flying ants came to the main part of Korea while there weren't any top hunters left? Would they still be able to pretend the ants weren't a problem? If there were just a few ants, their groups might be able to handle the problem. But numbers showed the ants were multiplying quickly, and that could be dangerous for all of Korea. They might ask other countries for help. But who would help them? China and Russia both had many skilled hunters, and they also had large areas of land they needed to defend. The United States did not offer help when the very dangerous gate first appeared. North Korea might send their strongest hunters to attack Seoul. That meant Japan was the only country they could ask for assistance. Japan would also be in trouble if the number of dangerous flying insects grew. If things got really difficult, Korea might have to ask Japan for help. Then Japan could ask for anything it wanted in return. People in Korea might even give up Jeju Island without a battle. If they were in that situation, everything would happen just like the president wanted it to. The Deputy Prime Minister felt a shiver run down their spine. President Matsumoto was willing to send all of the country's best hunters to their deaths for his risky plan. This plan could then cause the country to fail. Shigeo Matsumoto was a frightening person. The terrible plan made the deputy prime minister feel cold. But there was more to come. President Matsumoto continued. Jeju Island is just the first step. Slowly, Korea would have to ask Japan for help from the strongest hunters every time they needed it. It would be possible to control all of Korea without even fighting. Those are my ideas about this. The government officials breathed out after listening carefully to President Matsumoto's long explanation. Everyone had thought he was a little strange before, but now they listened carefully to everything he said. President Matsumoto spoke softly. What is your opinion, Deputy Prime Minister? Everyone looked at him. He swallowed hard. Whatever he said would be seen as what the Prime Minister thought, and the Prime Minister would stand by that decision, because he trusted his assistant. He needed to think very carefully. The Deputy Prime Minister thought about the problem again and again. Finally, he lifted his head. How can the government help you? Jinwoo kept getting messages on his screen every time his shadow soldiers beat demons inside the castles. Each time a demon knight was defeated, he earned 3,000 experience points. When a demon noble was defeated, he earned 500 experience points. He was getting a lot of points from his soldiers fighting. He was getting stronger, preparing for a big fight at the top of the castle. Better rewards meant more danger, things like potions for health, extra skills and powerful stones. When he thought about what he would get for defeating the Demon King, he knew he couldn't waste any time getting even stronger. You have leveled up, since he had already defeated most of the monsters nearby. Jinwoo checked his status, level 87. He had been level 80 when he first entered the demon's castle for the second time, and now he was level 87. Jinwoo was very happy as he looked at his improved stats. That was good. He made a fist and cheered. The system told him he had defeated a powerful demon twice. His shadow soldiers quickly finished off the last of the demons. They won easily. When the battle was over, the soldiers lined up in front of Jinwoo, like they always did. Iron was definitely the fastest of the group. He stood very straight, puffing out his chest, as if he wanted a compliment from Jinwoo. Jinwoo smiled at the large creature in front of him. Did you finish everything? Iron nodded his head. Are you certain? Iron nodded again. Very firmly. Jinwoo carefully checked with a smile on his face. He quickly turned and threw Barca's dagger. The dagger flew so fast it reached the wall in an instant. And ouch. The dagger hit a demon that was hiding and waiting for Jinwoo to get away from his soldiers. Ah. The demon was surprised to feel the blade in its side. If it had a heart like a person, the dagger would have hit it. How did he know it was there? This meant the man understood the hiding magic the important noble had used, but he was just a human by the time the demon looked up from its injury. It was shocked to see Jinwoo standing right in front of it. There was fear in the demon's eyes. How? Jinwoo took out Barca's dagger and used his best close-up attack. Deadly strike. The demon, already badly hurt, was now defeated by the powerful strike. You have defeated a demon noble. Jinwoo put Barca's dagger away and turned to Iron. Now how do you explain that? Embarrassed, Iron scratched the back of his head, or rather, the back of his helmet, and looked down. Soon, Igris, who had gone further into the castle to find more demons, came back. But what was that? Something about Igris seemed different. What was happening? Jinwoo looked closely at Igris. His guess was quickly proven right. As Jinwoo got closer, Igris quickly knelt and bowed his head. That wasn't strange. But then a surprising electronic sound rang out. It was a message. Knight, Igris has asked to become stronger. Do you want to allow this? Become stronger. Jinwoo quickly checked Igris's information. After reading the message. Igris LV. Max Knight rank. This soldier has reached the highest level possible for his rank. With the king's approval, his soldiers can become stronger. Igris' level was in the 30s, but now it said max. Instead of getting to a higher level, his soldiers could get a better rank when they reached a certain point. It seems they become better ranked around level 39, or 40. Jinwoo guessed, this is when his soldiers would improve their rank. The soldiers weren't very strong, most were around level 20, so reaching this goal would be a big accomplishment, and they needed my approval to even try. That's why Igris seemed so worried when he came to see me. He kept his head down the whole time. Jinwoo sensed how strongly the soldier wanted to prove himself while waiting for instructions. He really wanted to tell Igris. He was doing a great job. Honestly, Jinwoo looked at the message from the system again. It asked if he wanted to promote Igris. The message blinked, reminding him to answer. Igris had been one of his earliest soldiers, and he had fought with incredible effort. Why wouldn't he say yes? Jinwoo quickly answered the system's message. Yes. Do I really need a special word to do this too? Jinwoo frowned at first, but then thought about it again. When he thought about it, he usually called many soldiers at once. Even though only Igris was getting a promotion right now, it would be hard to approve many at once, especially during a fight. A special word to give permission would be helpful. Jinwoo thought about it carefully. Okay, it was best to keep the command simple and easy to understand. As soon as the signal was given, things started to change. It began under Igris's feet. Basula. Many black hands came up from the shadow beneath Igris, and it sounded like he was in pain. The dark hands grabbed at Igris everywhere. What was happening? Jinwoo watched carefully. At first, it looked like Igris was being pulled into the shadow, but it was actually the other way around. Dark energy wrapped around Igris, changing and swirling until it was all absorbed. It was as if the energy became part of him. Then, a message appeared on a screen. It told him Igris had become stronger, moving up in rank. Yes, Jinwoo was happy, but tried not to show it too much. He looked at Igris's information. Igris was now an elite knight, even though his level started over at 1. Fang, another shadow soldier, was also an elite knight. Fang used to be the strongest monster in a very difficult dungeon. Igris reaching the same rank as that strong monster meant he was now as powerful as Fang. Jinwoo's heart beat fast. What he had thought when he became the Shadow Monarch was true. He wasn't the only one who could get stronger. Jinwoo looked at each of his shadow soldiers carefully. Their skills were also getting better as he improved. Looking at Igris, who had changed so much with this new rank, Jinwoo realized all of his soldiers could become more powerful too. Jinwoo suddenly felt he needed to make all of his soldiers stronger. He had a lot to do already. As he looked at his troops with pride, Tank ran up to him carrying a weak demon. What was that about? Tank was hurrying toward him, and looked strange, just like Igris had a moment ago. Jinwoo watched Tank with amazement. Really, you too? Tank pushed the monster's body away and stretched out on his belly toward Jinwoo. Woof, another message popped up on the screen. A new message arrived. A powerful monster wants to become stronger. Do you want to let it? Oh dear. Jinwoo touched his forehead. When he looked at Tank's information, he saw that Tank had also reached the highest possible level. Shadow Beast, LV. Max Elite rank. This warrior had become as strong as he could for his rank. With the king's permission, he could move up to the next rank. Wait, something didn't seem right. Igris began at level 7, and was a very powerful fighter. Tank seemed much further from reaching the highest level, but both of them had improved ranks at nearly the same time. It didn't seem possible that the difference in their levels had disappeared after only one fight. Perhaps each new rank needed a different amount of levels to achieve. If that was true, it would explain everything. If Tank, a very skilled fighter, could become stronger at an easier level, he would reach his goal faster. But if Igris, another skilled fighter, had to reach a harder level to become stronger, it would have taken him more time. So it was possible for them to become stronger at the same time. As Jinwoo thought about this, he wondered if he could become stronger too. Maybe he just needed to train more. He quickly dismissed the idea and laughed. Then he allowed Tank to become promoted. As soon as Jinwoo gave his approval, Tank changed in the same way Igris had. Hands reached out from his shadow, which quickly became dark smoke and went into Tank. Pushed just like Igris. Tank was now stronger. A message appeared saying that Tank had become a powerful knight. But there was one difference. Beep. 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 More messages popped up. They said you could give names to shadow soldiers who were knights or stronger. These names would stay with the shadow until it was released. You needed to choose a name for Tank. Tank had just been a nickname. He was still called Shadow Beast because warriors below the rank of knight didn't receive names. Before, it was hard to tell Tank apart from the other bears, because he was so much larger. Now that Jinwoo had become stronger, he could finally give Tank a proper name. He smiled brightly. Tank. Would you like to call him Tank? Yes. With Jinwoo's okay. The change was entered into the Shadow Beast's information. Tank LV. 1 CAD rank. Tank stood up on his back legs. Once the ranking up was finished, when he stood on 2 feet like this, he was as tall as a house. Jinwoo was proud of him. You finally have a real name. Tank. Tank lifted his head and roared with happiness. Good job, everyone. They could relax now until they reached the next level. Jinwoo thought about his soldiers and brought them back into his shadow. Iron caught Jinwoo's attention. His shoulders were drooping, and he looked sad. Of all the original soldiers, Iron was the only one who hadn't become stronger. Whoosh! After all the soldiers disappeared into his shadow, Jinwoo left the castle. Ezel was waiting for him and looked worried. Jinwoo sir, I told you, you don't need to call me sir. Right. Jinwoo looked serious and Ezel hesitated. But she spoke again. Jinwoo sir, it seemed like the groups of demons paid attention to who was in charge. What? Do you know how many families have been defeated now? They were on the 89th floor, and Ezel had come from the 80th floor, so that made 9 families defeated. She grew more worried as she heard about how many families he had defeated. Powerful noble families protect the highest levels of the tower. They are much stronger than other nobles. Jinwoo answered quickly. So what? Why don't you try talking to them? If you ask nicely like you did with us, maybe they will help you. Jinwoo stopped her from continuing. If you are not as strong as me, would you even be speaking to me? Sal stopped talking. It was very bold for a human to come to a demon's castle without being invited, and then start making requests. He likely wouldn't have been able to leave alive. That's just how things are. Jinwoo smiled widely. Humans and magical creatures or monsters usually didn't get along very well. Strong creatures often defeat weaker ones. Jinwoo believed this was a natural rule, and he planned to continue being strong because he needed permission for things, and wanted to become more powerful. Jinwoo glanced at Ezel. He was curious why she seemed so sad and upset. Isn't it better if there are fewer noble families? Excuse me, you mentioned there was a lot of rivalry between noble families. Oh, that's right. But above this floor lived the most powerful and important noble families. If Jinwoo's attacks didn't work, Ezel and her people would face the anger of these powerful enemies. That was what Ezel worried about the most. Jinwoo looked at her with confidence. I will make the Radar clan the most important family. Actually, their family name is Radier. Ezel quietly kept the correction to herself. Soon they would be going to a higher level. Could this one man defeat all the powerful families? Oh well, her job was simply to show him the way. Adal decided not to overthink things. Oh, there was one more question she wanted to ask him. Jinwoo sir. What? Jinwoo turned to look at her, afraid to meet his gaze after seeing him destroy so many castles. Adal looked down at his feet instead. Why didn't you hurt my family? The Radier family wasn't strong enough to fight this man. Ezel knew how strong her family was, and she could see how powerful this man was too. Even though he usually didn't show kindness, he had spared them. Why did he do that? She needed to understand. Jinwoo stood on the magic circle that allowed travel, then looked at Ezel. Because I like you. Even though she was a monster, she knew when to give up, and when to make an agreement. Most importantly, she had given him a lot of helpful information. What? And also was very surprised. She turned bright red and just stood still, nervously playing with her fingers. When she didn't move after a while, Jinwoo looked back at her. Are you coming? He looked at the message asking where they should go next. If you don't get on, I'm going back to the 80th floor. I'm sorry. Still blushing, Ezel quickly stepped onto the circle, but she kept her head down for a long time, even after they arrived on the next floor. At Incheon International Airport, people from the Hunters Association of Japan were in Korea to talk about the ant problem on Jeju Island. They were meeting with important people from Korea to discuss a serious problem. President Matsumoto, who led a group from Japan, and Ryuji Goto, a very strong hunter considered the best in Japan, walked through the airport. Matsumoto felt something strange and looked around carefully. What is happening? He asked. There's a strong power nearby, someone replied. Is it stronger than yours? Ryuji laughed and said it was unlikely. Shujio noticed the man's response and didn't ask for more details. There isn't anyone like that in Korea. Soon, a worker from the Hunters Association of Korea hurried over to them. I'm sorry I'm late. It's very crowded today, and I got lost for a moment. The worker bowed to show he was sorry. President Matsumoto didn't show he was upset and smiled nicely. That's okay. But can I ask what is happening here? Oh, nothing really. I heard a hunter from the United States is visiting. What would bring an American hunter to Korea? I was told it was a private reason. There's nothing to be concerned about. The worker thought President Matsumoto was worried someone might escape from the dungeon, so he tried to make him feel better. President Matsumoto still looked worried. A hunter from the US, interesting. Was this about why they were all gathered here? Ryuji kept looking at the busy scene. He thought the American hunter might be somewhere in that crowd. Shigeo looked at his watch. Even if they left for the meeting right away, they would still be late. President Matsumoto made a decision. Let's begin. President Go and President Matsumoto sat facing each other. Many officials from Korea and Japan, from both their hunter organizations and government departments, sat on either side of them. This was a very important meeting, so it moved quickly. How about a team of the strongest hunters from both Japan and Korea? The Korean officials were surprised by President Matsumoto's unexpected idea.